You're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Well, hello and welcome to RBLR Sports. Sorry for the rough intro there. I still am figuring out this new platform, man. I don't really have too many things that tell me what's going on with it. But I'm Joe Zamataro, in for Jake Ricker, who once again is out on assignment. Being patient next to me is Matt Gannon. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm glad I'm properly oriented for you now. We're fixing these bugs one by one, so maybe we'll get the timing down soon enough.
That's exactly right. I mean, I switched browsers. That seemed to fix, you being upside down for me. But then all of a sudden, I don't know. We're getting it worked out one thing at a time. We have a lot to get to really quickly because obviously there's a game that's going to be starting here in about an hour. So we'll try pushing through some things and some news to get to real quick. With that being Brandon Hagel's out of this game as well, so mark the third game in a row that he's going to be missing. I guess it kind of blew up the Twitter sphere in terms of Buffalo fans saying that he's chickening out after the interaction with Dahlin last game when we played Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. But, that's some 4D chess if Coop held him out for 3 games in order to make it look like he was only missing because of injury and illness, not because he was actually too chicken to answer the call.
If they never did that going into games against the Florida Panthers, they would never do it against Buffalo. And it's crazy that this guy just always, kind of like Rasmus Dahlin, just seems to have a target on his back for whatever reason. We don't know Hagel. He's he does play that style. He gets people, pretty pissed off at him. So I can totally understand, but there's no way Buffalo's going to be headhunting. They're not the Panthers or anything like that. Hopefully whatever he is dealing with, I mean, we don't really know if it is illness or injury, whatever it might be. It seems like illness has kind of gotten a couple guys on the team so far, and that's just something that does pass in time. So hopefully that's what it is. But keep him rested, get him fresh for the playoffs, which we did officially clinch actually.
We did. So did Buffalo. They're celebrating this home game for themselves by, I don't know, they have something with their sabers, like beer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the beer saber.
The beer sabers. I don't know if they're giving them away or they're just available for sale. They're pretty cool. I kind of want one for myself. That'd be pretty neat to have on hand. But, I mean, last game did get pretty heated. These two teams are directly next to each other in the standings. Right now, we've got one game in hand, but are 2 points ahead of them. And, it's – in terms of the standings, it's almost anyone's guess still who is going to be playing who with these matchups. Because I said only 2 points separates us and Buffalo for head of the Eastern Conference. Obviously, if you're in second, there's a pretty solid chance you're going to be playing one of, I guess for that matter, Montreal is right there at the same number of points as Buffalo. So it's the Atlantic is still really anyone's to win.
It's been one of the best races across all the divisions, the wild card races, everything, but specifically this Atlantic division has been so entertaining to watch because it's full of good teams. It's not like the Pacific Division where it seems like nobody wants to win.
Yeah.
It's just the biggest mid-off ever. No, all the teams that are in it for the Atlantic and even the Metro for that matter, it's a bit of a bloodbath right now. Obviously, I think the Atlantic is the strongest in the division, and I hate saying that because that's where we play. And of course, I want some competition, but man, it sucks. I wish we could get like an easy pass to the first in the division, kind of like Carolina gets every year, or the spot in the Pacific that nobody does want.
Well, talking about how good the East has been, still, I don't think I've ever seen this in the history of me watching hockey. There's only one team that's below 500 in the Eastern Conference. That's the New York Rangers. everybody else, including the Panthers, are at exactly 500. Where if you look in the West, you've got 3 teams below 500, but then also the teams that are getting in. Edmonton is the top of the Pacific with 87 points. We've got 102 right now, just as a comparison. That's a massive differential. 87 points doesn't even get you it doesn't even give you a sniff of a wild card spot in the East. You still have the Islanders and the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets and the Capitals who have 87 or more points that aren't in the wild card yet.
Damn, I think it was 92 points the Canadians got to sneak into the playoffs with last year in the second wild card spot, and that would be division leading right now. Like that's absolutely insane. It's going to have to be close to 100 points for any Eastern team to make these playoffs. That is just crazy how the talent differential between the West and the East. Of course, you've got the big dogs and the Avalanche and the Wild and Dallas.
The path is going to be much easier for the team that's in the West in order to get to the Stanley Cup finals outside of the conference finals for sure. And since you mentioned Montreal, why don't we rewind things a little bit to last week and discuss the only loss that we had since the last show, which was that Montreal Canadiens game. That's all the way back last Tuesday where it seemed like it was a decent start for the Bolts. It was 1-1 after the first. Of course, the Lightning didn't get the first goal of the game, where they've had kind of traditionally bad starts for this past, I don't know, ever since the Olympic break. But then they just couldn't get it together in the second or the third, for that matter. Ended up giving up 2 empty net goals in a game that was closer than the score would suggest, being 4-1. It was really a 2-goal game going into that third. But the Lightning weren't able to click on the power play, and I think that's probably where they missed out. This was it was a tough game where they went 0 for 4 on it.
It's kind of a confusing game, especially if you're just watching the box score as well. I would say that the Lightning were probably the better team throughout that game, if you throughout the full 60 minutes of it. But at the same time, it was not flawless at all. It's not a game that you can say you got goalied by Jakub Dobeš, who did have a really, really good game, but it did seem like it was more of a shot quantity type of situation versus quality situation. There weren't, I would say, too many super good chances. There were some great, scrambled chances, just net front battles, loose pucks that Dobeš might have gotten a little lucky on, or just, the defense in front of him were able to get sticks on it and just ruin a good chance. But there was a lot of a good bit of issues in this game. The continuing theme of the Lightning not being able to counter the rush is a really big one. That's one thing that they have really struggled with over the last couple of weeks, maybe this entire year, but it's glaring this week, these last couple of weeks, on just the speed that teams are attacking with. There's not really a good way that they can cope. It seems like they'd rather be hemmed into the zone and dealing with a good setup versus, a 3-on-2 or a high speed rush chance, something like that. And that's kind of what undid them in this game. Montreal did take advantage of some wide open passing lanes, and Vazzy,
that game winning goal that Cole Caulfield had was Slavkovsky. He slipped it between the defensemen in a way that is, I think, inexcusable for the defenseman to have lost a 47-goal scorer trailing the play on the backside. I mean, that's, and again, going into a prime scoring area, to have 2 of our guys completely lose track of them, where it really was just one guy entering the zone solo, throwing it back to a wide open Caulfield, who I don't even think he shot, to be honest. I think he just put his stick on the ice, allowed the momentum of the puck to flex it, and it kind of like rebounded back off of his stick. It wasn't like he even had, it was a tap-in goal for him, and ended up costing the Lightning the game.
One of the best abilities of any goal scorer is the ability to disappear. I'm not entirely sure how he did manage to vanish. I can't remember the 2 defensemen that were on the ice for it, but yeah,
sure, Mosier was one of them, and then actually I got the tracker right here, so it looks like Mosier and Radish.
Oh wow! Rare.
For that matter, there's also Cirelli that was back as well. So we had 3 guys back, and it went past Mosier, went past Cirelli.
Three guys that I'd all consider to be extremely defensively responsible. Even Darren Radish now, his whole defensive game has changed.
It's just unfortunate because, like you said, it was a tighter game, a 1-goal game, and letting in a kind of a stinker of a goal to cost you a winning streak.
It is my bad because I did say last week I was like, I'm not afraid of Montreal. Give them to me, and of course to make me eat my words the very next day. It was an upsetting loss, that's for sure. Of course, every 2 points matters. Every point matters in the standings right now. You want to be gunning for that first pick or first spot in the division, and it was a crucial game. It was one that you really didn't want to lose at all. But again, the score was not as bad as the actual game was.
That's why you see 2 empty net goals, trying to fight your way back. Again, I don't blame that goal on Vassy at all. No. Otherwise, he would have essentially stopped. I don't want to do the math on how many goals he would have stopped or how many shots, because was that -2 more? I don't know. He would have like a 0.95 save percentage. But for the sake of time, why don't we move on to the next game, which again, still having that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule. The next one up was a game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this was also, I'm not going to say it was a huge game, but it was a game that, this is another team that right now they're second in the Metro. So it's like a playoff preview sort of team. And the Lightning, I don't know, it's so close, but they ended up just absolutely walking away with this one for a score of 3-6. The Pittsburgh Penguins came out firing first, got the lead, but the second period was all Bolts.
Oh, yeah. And the third period was just shut down as well. Like the Penguins shut down internally, and it was nothing but the Lightning. Yeah, the first period, it was ugly.
5 shots in the third period for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Jeez, yeah. No, this it was your perfectly on brand, very slow start for the Lightning, and then just the rest of the game seemed to have happened to go way into the Lightning's favor. Yeah, it was an interesting game, and not necessarily an important game. I mean, every game's important for the Lightning right now, but much bigger implications for the Penguins and other metropolitan teams in the weird, divisional and wild card playoff race that they're all in. I know Islanders fans were cheering about this. Philadelphia fans, who would have thought they're making a run for the playoffs as well? But no, there's really not a whole lot to be said about this game. Like, I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary. It really wasn't. Again, going back to the on-brand slow start and just taking over the rest of the game. Got to give our love to Anthony Cirelli. He was great in this game, getting that shorthanded goal to really kick off that brutal second period for the Penguins.
That's exactly what it was, is kicking it off, because it was basically right after the face-off drop happened, and he put on the Jets and gave the Lightning a momentum shift to really get them kick-started into that second.
And then they just carried all that momentum into the third. I really can't think of many dangerous Pittsburgh plays from that moment on. And to control a game that well for 2 periods, again, I think Pittsburgh is a much more inferior opponent. I'm not entirely worried about them. I think their team's got a lot of issues. I think they're further along in their curve than they really should be. But, to control a game like that does give me some very good vibes. I think, last week I was saying, the resiliency, being able to come back and claw your way back into these games. And now you're controlling these games pretty good for, handedly for an extended period of time. Again, you only did it against Pittsburgh. You're going to see a little bit different against Boston, but it was a really, really good game for the Lightning. Biggest bummer in this game was the goal with 1 second left.
I will say that was one hell of a shot. That was an incredible shot.
I had people waiting on me, I watched these games with my friends online, and the game was over. It was 6-2 with 4 minutes left. Like, Matt, come on, like, we were gonna go play NHL or something. I'm like, nah, I want to finish the game. Finally, they bullied me into turning it off with like a minute left, and of course, I was like, listen, you made me miss a goal, so now I got to go back and watch it.
1958 is what the time says. That so the opposite of that. So less than 2 seconds left in the game for that late goal. Speaking of stats, there's a number of interesting stats. We've talked about it at length earlier in the season, how when the Lightning don't win faceoffs, they tend to win the game. The Lightning were absolutely pathetic with only a 39.1% at face-off wins, but handily won the game, obviously. Also, Sorelli getting his hat trick. And then this was Gergenson's game where he got a goal for his 100th in his career, a number that, honestly, I didn't know he had that many. He's had a long career, but, really exciting to see him hit a milestone like that.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought he would have had more. Like, I know he's never been like a superstar or anything, but he was, a top 6 kind of player in Buffalo. He made the All-Star game one year. I know he's been in the league for, I think it's 11 years now, something like that. But obviously his role has transitioned greatly with the Lightning. And what is it? What was that? Like his 8th goal this year, or something like that. The transformation. Ninth. The transformation and blossom from him, I guess we'll say the dog, has been just amazing to see this year. But yeah, that was the game-winning goal as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the game-winning goal. It's his 9th on the season. His best season ever was back in 2014-15, where he had a total of 15 goals, 15 assists for 30 points. Since then, the most points that he had in a season, he's had 22 his rookie season, but after that 30-point season, he has had 18, 18, and 119 season. He's got 18 right now, so there's potential for this to be, if he gets just like one more point here, it would basically be his best season since like his rookie year.
Dang, I might have been, overinflating his stats a little bit, but with Buffalo, you got to think those terrible Buffalo teams in the mid 2010s, you got to grade on a curve. So 30 points, 15 and 15. That's kind of like being an 80-point guy in today's NHL too. So maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's doing well right now. Obviously, he's in a good place in terms of him feeling comfortable out there with his line mates. It's made a huge difference, I think, in the Lightning's overall productivity for sure. I have a comment here by Beverly saying, don't you think it's time for Nick Paul to start heating up? It's another guy that definitely would like to see, a character guy that, when he's playing well, the rest of the team plays well too. And it seems almost in a sense that Gergenson's been sort of playing that role where he's kind of finishing more pucks than Nick Paul has as of late. I wonder if he's also still maybe fighting something with an injury there.
I hope not. He's definitely, he's such a fan favorite kind of player, in my opinion. I've loved him since he came over. I thought he was the better of the two between him and Hagel when they got traded at nearly the same time. And he's definitely left a lot to be desired this year, and I'm not going to fault him for it. He's dealt with injuries for long stretches. It's hard to get back into game rhythm and game shape. I know he can do better. Again, this is a guy, he had back-to-back 20-goal seasons or high-teen seasons?
Yep, 24. With his first season with the Lightning, he basically had 16 when he, combining with his Ottawa stats, then 17, then 24, 22, and he's down to 6. He only has 6. Now, mind you, he's lost 33 games that he's been out, almost half a season with injury. So it's a noticeable decline, but even if you double those numbers, put up to 12, he's still pretty far off that 20-goal pace.
Absolutely. And I think the third line's probably been the one that's been the least consistent. The line that he kind of, I guess, slots in on. The lines for the Lightning are so weird, but not even talking about productivity-wise, but just who gets to play on it, what it is. The fourth line, with Gord, Gergensons, and Holmberg has been pretty much the most solid line in terms of consistency on who's on it and how they're playing the whole year. But the third line is just kind of the experiment line. I guess you can call it the third line. There's been, a Dominic James or a Corey Perry. There's just been a lot of people on it. Hard to find a good rrhythm.
Chafee played in this Pittsburgh game.
Oh yeah, I thought he was. He was. I thought he was pretty good in this game. There was
getting his legs back.
A couple mistakes, but I do like the energy that he brings. But again, I think Paul hasn't had the teammates to really find any consistency or groove with, and again, dealing with whatever he might be dealing with. I know he can be better, so I'm not entirely worried about him just yet. But it would be nice if he could, get back to being that Nick Paul does it all kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the Boston Bruins game that was next. The Lightning continued their winning ways. This was on Saturday, winning a final score of 3-1. it's another game that would seem pretty tight for quite a bit of it. Boston is a team that right now in the standings, they're fighting for that wild card spot. They got it, they're in a pretty good position there with 95 points, where the wild card 2 is at 90. But with this close to the end of the season, you can't take any points for granted at all. Lightning, continued that statistic of absolutely being terrible in faceoffs. They're even worse with 31% in the circle, but got the win. And like I said, 3-1, and outshot the Boston Bruins by 23-22.
This was a scary game, of course. Probably I guess the Montreal had the biggest playoff implications, but it was definitely a scary game for pretty much the entirety of it. Definitely did not look good in, what was it, the second period or late in the first period, where they just couldn't get anything on net. They couldn't get out of their zone. Boston was doing a really good job, applying the heat early, applying the pressure early, and tale as old as time. Once the late second, early third comes around, you really, really start to push back. Just for a greater picture of this game. A little physical this game too. Tanner Jeannot was in there, trying to stir things up. He did get a wicked not a cross check, but a two-hand slash. I can't remember on who. Didn't get called. I think the officiating was pretty bad in this game. Of course, usually I can, be man enough to say, maybe I'm just being biased or something, but it objectively was pretty bad in this game with that 2 minutes and 35-second power play early in the first. I know that doesn't really fall on the on-ice officials, maybe more so the timekeepers in the penalty box, but that was a really interesting scenario. I've never seen anything quite like that before.
I do want to give a shout out to one of my buddies who was actually in the penalty box working. It was kind of funny because they showed him on TV for a moment and got to see some screenshots shared around my friend group. So he was pretty busy with some of those. Yeah, I liked the fact that we got scoring from our defense. The last game we were talking about some milestones. This one, there is a really big milestone as well. Dastu putting up the hell of an effort, getting his own rebound to open the scoring. But then Darren Radish getting the 21st goal of the season as a defenseman, and then that setting the record for a Lightning defenseman in one season, which is it's a bittersweet sort of thing to see, right? Because you got to feel for Hetty, who's going through some tough times right now, and he was tied with Dan Boyle at 20 goals, and then comes Bald Eagle, and he's been playing so well this season. He's really deserved it.
I don't think that's got to be a bummer for Hedman. When I think of him, I don't know if. I think he's, a team guy. He's such a lovable person and just always, positive and just radiating good energy. I think he'd be extremely stoked for his teammate, even if this is like a flash in the pan season for Darren Radish. What a season it has been. It might be a really, really funny answer to a trivia question in 10, 15 years or something. Like you would think it would be a Victor Hedman or a Dan Boyle or Pavel Kubina. Nope, Darren Radish. So I think everyone's probably pretty stoked for him. Again, he seems like a pretty loved guy in the locker room as well. And I don't think Hedman's, bummed about it.
I definitely would hope not. It was a great game-winning goal by Radish, and with that, the Lightning get 4 of the 6 possible points. They're so close in that Canadiens game to be able to open it up. Man, there's some really good chances, but. All these points are mattering in the standings here as we start to see the seeding get figured out like we were speaking about before. There was one other stat that I was looking at. Let's see if I can pull it up quickly enough here. All right, so Kucherov had that empty net goal. That put him at 125 points on the season. Connor McDavid is at 126 points. So he's only one behind. And as of right now, the Lightning have, that would be 8 games left to go. The Avalanche also have 8 games left to go. You have any predictions?
As much as I want to.
Oh, and also, let me throw this one other caveat into that. We're done playing teams in the West. So the ability to bully some lower level teams is pretty much gone for the Lightning.
Listen, we don't stat pad around here. All these points are earned ethically by Kucherov. So he did have a bit of a quiet week, a rare quiet week. And no, I mean, as much as I'd love for him to win, it might be the Connor McDavid show. It might be him pulling away. They're probably going to end up neck and neck. I want him to finish higher than Nathan McKinnon, but again, all the last 3 times that Kucherov has won the Art Ross Trophy, it's been pretty mediocre in the playoffs. So I think it'd be really cool in the history books seeing Kucherov 3 straight times and a 4th couple of years before, but I'd probably rather have a decent chance in the playoffs. That's my tinfoil hat theory.
So it's like the face-offs. If we win too many face-offs, we lose the game. If we win too much hardware in the regular season, we don't get it all in the post.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, these multi-award winning seasons, maybe not a good sign for Lightning. Again, it's cool on paper, but I would trade a lot of these players' trophies for Stanley Cups.
That's fair enough. And that's a perfect segue where you don't have to compromise. You can settle for having the best for yourself by going to shop.rblrsports.com. Get yourself some swag, collect some gear, stuff that is like Tampa Bay inspired merch, be it Lightning, Rowdies, Rays, Bucks. Shop.rblrsports.com, and be sure to use code BOLTS and to get 10% off your order. All right. Let's move on to the 3 stars of the week. And we're not, like you said, it was a relatively quiet week for Nikita Kucherov. So we'll go back to calling it the Nikita Kucherov 3 stars of the week. And starting us off, Eureka, if you could throw it up on the screen for us. Or do you not have it prepped? Don't have that one up. All right. So we'll do it without showing on it. We'll go with Charles Edward Dastu as the number 3 star of the week. A guy that I think he played really, really well in some of these games. And, he's been a guy that's eating up a lot of minutes. He had over 20 minutes, almost at 21 minutes in that Pittsburgh game where he got a critical assist, opened the scoring with Boston. He ended up being a +3 in those 2 games. Yeah, he's a -2 against Montreal, but he has been such a dynamic player for us on defense and has been playing really well.
Yeah, and Tom Davis, one of our writers here at RBLR, he covers the Lightning. He does some really good articles. Go check out some of his work. He reminded me during this, was it the Pittsburgh or it was the Boston game, where he said, locking him up for, an extra year at $875,000 is such a steal. It is such a steal. If he just waited a little bit, it could be in the 1.5, maybe even the $2 million range for even longer or whatever it might be. But you got him next year for $875. That's looking like a very minor steal right there. So I'm loving that. Hopefully he gets some more playing time next year. He's stepped into this, injured role with Victor Hedman out. And just like Darren Radish has flourished in this role, maybe, a bit shaky defensively, but he's still, rough. He can move the puck pretty well. He's got a good couple goals on the season as well, getting one in this Boston game, a crucial game-tying goal at the time, and just a dogged goal too. He loves to roam around, skate up the ice. He looks like a forward half the time too. So just a great offensive defenseman that I'm glad, he's had success everywhere he's gone. Hopefully he can be a mainstay in the NHL, fix a couple things here and there. But for a first-year player, I love his game. He just gets better and better every single game.
I'm liking it as well. 6 goals, 23 assists on the season so far. Guy that came out of nowhere, and then has really been impressing. So yeah, for your number 3 star, we have Dastu. Moving on to the number 2 star of the week, guy that got a hat trick, a guy that's been all over the ice, and especially when Brandon Hagel's not on it, you feel his presence even that much more. Anthony Cirelli.
Man, what a week. What a season he's been having, actually. Bummer that he couldn't make it to the Olympics. I do maintain that if he did get to go, Canada would have won. He would have been more effective than Sam Bennett or I forget who else they replaced him with. But
Canada would have won if they had an Anthony Cirelli. And just
What again?
what another great
Season he's having,
hitting that 20
plus
goal mark again. He did
that a while ago.
and capping it off with a hat trick too.
I know I said
something about no stat
pad and all
ethical goals. He did get the empty
netter for the hat.
hat trick, but who
Cares? Throw the hat.
hats?
No, what a
What a performer!
the
The way he plays with Brandon
Hagel is
well, just one of the most
dynamic and
brutal
penalty killers,
in the league and a great
two-way player.
It's a shame
He
he
doesn't have a Selke
trophy by now.
I think he really
Really deserved it last year.
think he put
Put up 60
something points.
somehow. They gave it to Barkov
Cobb again for
being objectively
the worst
defensive player of the three
that were nominated.
but anyway,
Let's move
past that. I do have
some
some
bad news.
about the whole situation.
Oh,
He-
He's out tonight.
Anthony Cirelli.
He's out too.
Yep, just came
Came down the pipeline.
blind a couple minutes ago that
He is
missing tonight's game.
so
Did they hint towards anything like an illness? Because I still have a feeling that going around a little bit there.
I sure hope
so. I
my
notifications
notification's gone, but I can go try and find.
find it.
I do want to point out that this season he, that goal against Boston, he has. It was the goal. No, the first goal against Pittsburgh. He has 2 shorthanded goals this season. A little bit off of his normal pace because he had 4 last season, but a total of 4 shorthanded points. Last season he had 7 shorthanded points. He's got 19 shorthanded goals in his career. That's an incredible amount. That's a fifth of Gergenson's total goal count, basically, he has for shorthanded goals.
Injury update.
Anthony Cirelli
Cirelli will not play tonight due to
to injury.
he's listed as day-to-day.
Okay. Well, I don't mind resting him either, especially because it was a much more physical game. I'm assuming that Sabrin must be in this game, rest some of these guys because we got playoffs right around the corner. If you got a little tweak and ailment, if you have a little Chernak, then give yourself the night off. Sounds about right.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Kid. So hopefully
Hopefully it's nothing.
ailing him too good because
Again, he's just been
so on
fire as
of
of
late. Again, I
I think I'm
partial
partial to take
take credit for this little
a hot streak that he's
been going on. Again, I had him
on my fantasy
team and I dropped him.
team, and then he just
Starts going off,
getting all these goals.
That's that's definitely on you.
You're welcome, guys.
Guys,
Yeah. Well, at least he's given some other guys a opportunity to jump into this 3 stars because he's a perennial favorite. He's always seeming to be on this list. And that's with Anthony Cirelli. So moving on to number 1 star of the week, a guy that also had a big game when he was going up against Pittsburgh there, where he scored his 100th goal of his career. Character guy, and that's going to be Zygmunt Gergensen.
We went
over the list.
list and you did
Throw a curveball.
ball at me. You're like, a
Perennial favorite.
for this list. I was like, wait,
Who did we pick
again?
Yeah, no. Again,
Again, what a
what a rejuvenating
rejuvenating season that he did.
have. I was
Starting
starting
to go off on my tangent
a little bit earlier.
earlier. I just every time we talk
Talk about these
players,
players.
I just want to get it out of the way. And
Never wait for the start.
stars list, but again, just
The difference
difference, a year
can make
in
a new
system to you. He is, I'm not going to say he's the lifeblood of
that 4th line
line, but the way
way that he plays with
with his line
mates on that line.
They've
Yanni
brought each
Gordon,
other
Thomas
up
Holmberg.
significantly.
absolutely gourd, man. I mean, he's been flying around. Of course, this is the Gergensen
Segment, but you
can't give love
to just
one of them because they play so
well as a
cohesive,
unit.
not even an individual kind of player. They just play
Great.
together. His stats
Probably don't show it
for this week, but again, the
way
how dogged
he is, the way
he plays. He's not
super rough
and tumble kind of guy, but
he's somebody that
I wouldn't want to be out there against.
you're gonna
He's going to
finish every
single check, even if it's just a
regular get
you off the puck check kind of
deal
and just goes to
to the front of
the
the
net, goes to the paint.
paint. He had
An opportunity,
I think it was maybe
in the Montreal game
or maybe
last week, sometimes
times where he just
goes to the front of the net, and then he gets
gets this the game
game-winning goal in Pittsburgh.
a beautiful
Backhand goal in the
in the
locker room for the post game.
John Cooper
Made a funny little
quip. Did you
see
see
this at all, Joe?
I don't think that I saw that one. No.
So I think they were giving him
him the
100th goal puck, and I think he said
even with
the net completely empty.
the
Gergensen's, you went far post.
post He did, you know,
He
he
did. It
almost
almost didn't go. He almost put it through the crease. Yeah.
He almost sailed it wide.
wide, but you know,
They
they
don't ask how. They ask how
many, and it's
100 now. So good
for Zemgus.
Ferguson's. What a player.
I'm glad to have
Have you?
It's 100, like you said, 9-9 this season for 18 points. One thing that looking at his stats here is worthy of noting is last season he was averaging right around 11 minutes 40 seconds worth of ice time per game. So it's about 11 minutes. Now he's up to 14 minutes. So it's an increase of almost 30% of ice time from last season. That's a significant jump in numbers for a guy to be responsible for. So it's he's not just playing better, he's playing more because of it too. And great guy to get the first star of the week.
Absolutely.
And again, maybe last year
He had
a little bit of Connor
Sherry syndrome,
where he just kind of
doing some
cardio, just kind of
look just
like a guy out there. But
again, the way
and the guys
that he plays with,
it's a great
line. It's
the energy line.
line now.
I think it was in the
I can't remember
remember which game it was. Maybe this
Boston game
where he just kept putting
this line
out, and he started the game
game with them.
and
I think he started
started maybe the second period with
them just to
get into the game.
of course that
First period was a little
little ugly, but
they didn't look bad on the ice
at all. It's
the other lines that do, but when
they have the
puck, when they're on the ice,
it's usually
150
50 to 200
feet away from Vasilevsky.
Yeah, they definitely find a way to grind that puck when they get it into the other end. Not a guy that I'd want to play against. With that sort of, he's strong, man. He's you see him body people off the puck, and his board play is, I think, a little bit underappreciated. I don't know that we've really talked about it that much, but he's not the fastest guy, but he's still a guy that's super solid. Like you said, almost like what we've seen out of Nick Paul in previous roles.
Yeah, it's a good person
to draw.
comparison to.
So I guess Beverly has a comment here saying Connor Sherry scored his first goal with the Rangers last night, 11 seconds in.
No, I think that
That
was
was just the
first goal in the game.
he's got a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I do know that
the Rangers fans
fans have been
very displeased.
pleased with him this year.
I mean, they could have just watched a Lightning game. Actually, I don't even know how you would watch Connor Sherry, because there's just nothing there's no highlights, right?
No.
I mean, I'm not even trying to trash a player. Just what would you show somebody to tell them to indicate the type of player that Connor Sherry is? And it's just going to be like maybe it's one of those ones where it's like the featured cam where it just focuses on one player kind of skating around the ice when they're not engaged. Like they'll do that for Kucherov every now and then, right? You'll see him just kind of do circles, and then all of a sudden he has the puck. It goes the other way. 2 seconds later, it's in the back of the net. But Connor Sherry just, I think, more or less just be him kind of skating around.
I would show
Somebody one of those stat cards
where it tells you
0 goals,
0
assists, 0 points,
points, 0
blocks, 0 hits, 16 minutes,
it's 11 seconds.
of ice time.
There's
a reason
Yep.
why he got
labeled cardio
O'Connor here
for
2 years.
Well, let's take a look at the road ahead as we kind of get towards the end of this show, getting ready for a game that's going to be going on tonight. We already talked about it. It's the rematch against Buffalo. Then they got a 24-hour break before going into Ottawa. Another game against the Canadiens on Thursday, and then again against Boston on Saturday to round out the week. We'll probably try doing another early show for you guys next Monday, because they again play a Monday night game, this one against the Red Wings at 7. Are any of these ones that I don't know, every single one of these games, I don't know that it has me nervous, but these can be some really tough games for this week, because they're all teams that I would almost say it's a 50-50 on who's going to win for all 4 of these.
all 4 of these teams.
Teams are hungry.
Man,
Wait, we play the
Red Wings.
I'm saying on Monday
Okay,
next week, so our show will have to be a quicker, earlier one as well.
Got you.
I mean,
This is grind time.
time right now.
Hopefully,
You
you can catch some of these teams
if they're
in a state of free fall or something
like Detroit,
Detroit, but
we're
not
not
in March anymore, so they
might be
actually playing decent hockey.
interesting. The Islanders
plan
is a very
interesting.
situation right now.
But
But
as far as the other
teams we got going,
all Atlantic teams,
all hungry teams
battling for
first, teams battling for a wild card spot.
Boston,
They're kind of somewhere
somewhere in the middle
between a divisional and a wild.
card spot.
None of these are
They're going to be easy.
of course, last week
Week I was saying
I'll take second in the division.
division,
Who cares? No, I want first in
in the division now.
I want to play wild card.
Two team. I
I
don't
don't care how hot they're coming in. You
need
need
to get
as many points as possible
and keep all these
these guys below you because
Yeah, they
are
are
in first right now.
Buffalo this game
Tonight and there's
another one
later on this week too.
two against Buffalo.
Two huge games
Games one against
against Montreal.
another
Huge game, and then the other is maybe not
quite as important
important, but it's more important
to them.
So they're going to come out swinging.
Swinging. You got
You got to try and, of course,
it's not going to happen.
most likely not
Winning all these games
games, but
it'd be really
nice.
It'd be nice. I mean, this is, almost like a playoff preview. At the very least, these are great games to watch to start to get familiar with some of the other teams again in terms of what you're going to see in the Eastern Conference. And, at least one of them won't be making it that we're playing, this week, guaranteed. So that's the, fighting for the wild card spot between Boston, who have a 5-point lead in the wild card with 7 games to go. But then that wild card 2 is a spot that's up for grabs, basically between Ottawa and Detroit. But then you also have the Islanders, Columbus, and Washington within 3 points of them. So
Is
it's
Philly in a
divisional playoff.
playoff spot?
they have 90 points in a divisional spot. So the only
Wow.
people that can really catch them are the Islanders. But if the Islanders catch them, then that basically just swaps out for the wild card. So it's much closer race for these wild card spots. Usually we always say that like the magic number is right around 100 points in order to get into the playoffs. If you're in the West Coast, it's not even going to be close to needing that many, but it looks like it's going to hold pretty true in the East. And we got a busy week to look forward to. And again, another one that's starting in about 20 minutes here. Got any final thoughts for the show?
Yeah, we got
A couple minutes.
minutes to spare.
It won't
Sure.
be long. What do you think
Think of the
the Islanders
Canning Patrick
Waugh this
late into the season.
season?
I thought that was a really, really strange decision, mostly because that they're also a cusp team, right? They're really tight in that wild card race. And look, they're 3-7 in their last 10. I get that they're on now a 4-game losing streak, but what are you going to do to, for this season, bringing in, who'd they bring in again? They brought
Pete
in
DeBoer.
Pete DeBoer. Yeah. How is he going to turn this team around? And, it's also, I think, a really bad look for what you did to a head coach. There has to have been something more behind behind closed doors, which I would 100% think would happen with Waugh, that, there's some arguments and it probably got heated to go ahead and facilitate that.
I mean,
Everyone knows how
Patrick Waugh is
as a player,
and as a coach,
like he gets heated,
he'll be
screaming at you.
going crazy. But
But
I do think there's also
also an interesting
decision. I think they're way
way further along.
long, kind of like Pittsburgh.
I was saying
Earlier on
where they
should be right now. Like
they should have been
been, a
a bottom 16
team. They might
end up as being
doing that, but I think
Matthew
Matthew Schaefer's really blossoming.
blossoming under.
Patrick Waugh, of
Of
course,
course, he's a generational.
generational talent.
It's probably not the
Coach that's getting it out of him.
him, but
You don't want to completely stunt
who he is as a
player with an
entirely new
system. It's
gotta be weird and jarring
jarring for the rest
to the players as well.
well. Again, you're
5 games
away from the postseason
season. If
if you make it or not.
I understood,
It feels like it's you're cashing it in, right?
no,
I think it's kind of a last
last grasp.
kind of move. So
Okay.
make a strong push,
Push, get some
energy just to get in.
into the playoffs.
New coach bump is
Entirely a true
thing, and I think
Coach
Coach Pete
DeBoer, I think
he's a guy that
can get
teams pretty far in the
playoffs.
never win, but he gets
Gets teams pretty
far. I understood
stood Vegas
his reason for
Canning
was it Bruce Cassidy
and getting.
John Tortorella and lead.
They're a team that
Should be better,
and they're a team that
that has been underperforming, utilizing their players horribly wrong.
There's someone that'll light a fire under your ass. They definitely have it with Torch. He'll
Absolutely.
get those guys really working hard.
So
I understood him more for that.
but I wanted to get
Your take on the
your situation.
but it is still perplexing.
To me.
Yeah, I'd never enjoy seeing coaches get canned mid-season. I know that I don't know why, but I just never been a big fan of his. Maybe it's just because because maybe it is because he's just caustic, and I don't tend to like it. But that was surprising to me for sure. And hey, if the Islanders are able to sneak in, I'd love to be able to match up and eliminate them in the first round when they, don't have their strategy quite as refined as the Lightning will.
I hope
this doesn't come
back to bite us, and I'll end
us on
a better
note.
Something positive.
Dominic
James, he was skating again.
He's actually traveling
With the team right now
on this road trip
too. So
I heard he did the morning skate with the team. I don't know that they fully announced if he would play or not. I don't know if the lineup came out, but it'd be cool if he was able to at least get in a couple of games, because man, I was so high on that kid before he got injured. He was playing really well.
He was playing
amazing in the game
that he got injured.
But again, he's
Traveling with the
team. Don't rush
him back or anything
anything like that. But maybe
with
Sorelli and Hagel out. Oh God, what's our penalty
goal going to be?
That's going to be scary. We got Jake
Gensel. Don't worry.
Cooch out there.
Yeah,
noted shorthanded
goal legend.
But yeah, good to see Dominic
James,
back into almost ready to play games.
Well, with that, we'll let you guys enjoy the game tonight. Can't wait to talk about it more next week. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join us in the comments and hit the notification bell so you always know when we're going live. Thank you again for watching us, RBLR Sports Lightning, and go Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.